This determined man lays down his terms, flatly refusing a trip to another world unless his conditions are met. Rewind a few minutes. Our hero, surprisingly spry for a hospital patient, confronts a stunned, ethereal woman. The glowing being reveals he was selected for reincarnation after a long, weary life ended at 37. He mulls over this god's offer of reincarnation, a chance he never expected. This god apparently sends chosen ones to various fantastical worlds, bestowing powers for their new lives. She inquires about his desired cheat skills, overwhelming power perhaps, or a knack for attracting companions. But he surprises her, politely declining epic powers, instead dreaming of a simple, self-sufficient life. His excitement grows as she, slightly flustered, realizes his simple requests are quite comprehensive: skills, knowledge, even land. With his wishes granted, he confidently strides towards a radiant light, embarking on his second life. And so his new life begins, with him, now a young boy, desperately fleeing a monstrous boar. So much for that slow start. The boar, practically the size of a small car, glares with pure, unadulterated fury. He sprints, vowing this second life won't end as a pig's plaything before he even reaches the village. A light bulb moment. He recalls the concealment skill, but how does one activate a cheat code mid-chase? With sheer desperation, he mentally screams for his concealment skill to activate, to deploy, to do something. The charging boar suddenly skids to a halt, its tiny eyes wide with utter bewilderment. Utterly baffled, the beast sniffs the air, question marks practically popping above its head as its prey vanishes. He grins, realizing his concealment skill has made him one with the scenery, and now's his chance to escape. Catching his breath, he marvels at his tiny, elementary school-sized body, thankful for its surprising stamina. Curious about his new setup, he attempts to summon a status board, and one promptly materializes like a video game menu. His profile reveals his new identity: Yuri Sarai, age 7, a body thoughtfully provided by the goddess, give or take a few details. Yuri reviews his impressive skill list, noting his high-level concealment and various magic affinities. He reflects on the goddess's generosity, realizing his skills cover farming, crafting, and even fast travel. Yuri considers the concealment skill's potential uses, while a mischievous goddess observes from the shadows. Equipped with a machete, Yuri sets off, determined to explore his new world and secure his survival. He pauses, alerted by a rustling sound in the nearby forest. Yuri forages for edible plants and berries, pleased with the taste and his newfound knowledge. He contemplates his next steps, prioritizing food security and shelter. Yuri spots something in the distance and cautiously approaches. He arrives at a dilapidated village, seemingly deserted and in ruins. Yuri recalls the goddess's promise of land and resources, seemingly unaffected by the village's state. Yuri decides to give the rundown village a thorough inspection, undeterred by its dilapidated state. He prioritizes the essentials, food and shelter, as his current attire is thankfully adequate for now. Spotting a relatively intact house, Yuri makes a dash for it, hoping it's a viable shelter. A quick peek inside reveals the house is in decent shape, requiring only minor repairs to be habitable. He envisions his ideal setup, a secure central homestead complete with a well and cultivated fields. With shelter tentatively secured, Yuri's thoughts turn to his rumbling stomach. Food is the next critical objective. His foraging pays off as he stumbles upon wild watermelons and wheat, a welcome sight. Yuri beams, realizing these wild crops mean he can start farming once he clears the area. A sudden wave of caution hits him. Are these wild edibles actually safe, or a delicious-looking trap? Remembering his skill set, Yuri summons his status board, intending to use appraisal to verify the plant's safety. His appraisal skill confirms both the watermelons and wheat are edible and cultivable, much to his relief. Yuri notes the harvested wheat isn't enough for serious farming, pondering how long the village has been deserted. He recalls a simple bird trapping technique, figuring it's a viable option for catching small game. Yuri sets his makeshift trap and watches from hiding as unsuspecting birds approach the bait. Peeking from cover, he suddenly remembers his magic skills, realizing he could have used a much easier method. As he considers using magic, a sudden noise startles him, making him wonder if someone else is nearby. A massive, shadowy form crashes down nearby, sending Yuri into high alert as danger looms. It's the monstrous boar, back with a vengeance and looking even more terrifying than before. Yuri stares in disbelief, realizing the relentless beast has somehow tracked him all the way to the village. The boar charges ferociously, forcing Yuri to scramble for safety while desperately trying to reactivate his concealment skill. Yuri ducks behind some crates, the boar's massive form looming as he debates his next move. Another desperate flight? The enraged beast pulverizes everything in its path, its fury turning the dilapidated village into a demolition zone. Witnessing his potential home being wrecked, Yuri questions if his current minimal power can possibly stop this rampaging monster. He briefly considers abandoning the ruined village, doubting he could ever defeat such a formidable opponent. Yet the thought of fleeing into the unknown, dangerous wilderness of this new world seems an even grimmer prospect. Steeling his resolve, Yuri plants his feet. The boar clearly views him as an intruder, and a confrontation is inevitable. He now sees the boar not just as a threat, but as a rival, both vying for this patch of land. Yuri recalls his lifelong dream of a self-sufficient life in nature, understanding that true freedom requires facing challenges head-on. Fueled by a fierce determination to survive and thrive in this new world, he refuses to be thwarted by this monstrous obstacle. With a defiant cry, Yuri unleashes his level 1 fire magic, blasting a torrent of flames directly at the charging boar. The village center erupts in a colossal, fiery explosion, momentarily obscuring the battlefield. Yuri smirks, believing his level 1 fire magic was far more devastating than anticipated. Reality crashes down as he realizes his grand attack was a mere fantasy, and he's still hiding, far from his dream life. He reevaluates his skills, noting his concealment is surprisingly potent, unlike his current offensive magic. Yuri clenches his fist, determined to trust the abilities bestowed by the goddess and achieve his goals. He channels his inner power, feeling a surge of heat as he prepares to unleash his fire magic once more with conviction. Instead of a fiery torrent, a pathetic puff of smoke erupts from his outstretched hand, much to his shock. Yuri stares in disbelief as his mighty spell fizzles into a tiny, insignificant flame that quickly extinguishes. The monstrous boar looms utterly unfazed as Yuri realizes his full power attack was laughably weak. Desperate, he tries wind magic, producing a faint breeze, then wood magic, which hilariously sprouts a tiny plant on the boar's head. With his magic proving utterly useless, Yuri resorts to a classic tactic, running for his life from the enraged boar. He then summons his level 3 earth magic, desperately hoping a massive earthen wall will finally halt the beast's rampage. But the monstrous boar, unimpressed, smashes straight through the newly formed barrier as if it were mere mud. In a stroke of luck, the beast gets itself comically wedged in the very hole it created, presenting Yuri with a rare opening. Realizing his magical attacks are a bust, he grimly draws his machete, understanding only cold steel might work now. His mind flashes to a predator's vital strike, recalling how to target a creature's vulnerable point for a swift takedown. With the boar momentarily immobilized and fuming, Yuri identifies a crucial weak spot, knowing this is his only chance. Though fear grips him, the burning desire to live and thrive in this world hardens his resolve and his grip on the blade. He makes his decision, turning to face the trapped behemoth with a surge of desperate courage and a glint in his eye. To Yuri's utter astonishment, the mighty boar collapses, defeated far more easily than he'd ever dared to imagine. Yuri stares at the colossal, vanquished boar, contemplating the monumental task of dealing with its remains. He remembers a novel's guide to preparing game, but quickly dismisses it, lacking a suitable river for the process. A sudden, disembodied voice inquires if he's troubled, prompting a startled Yuri to demand its source. The voice cheekily directs him upwards, where 2 birds circle, much to Yuri's confusion. The avian duo cheerfully introduces themselves, revealing they can understand humans, though this is their first encounter. Yuri's jaw drops as the reality of talking birds sinks in, leaving him momentarily speechless. A quick glance at his skill list reveals his language complete ability is the source of this bizarre yet useful communication. The birds explain the boar was uncommunicative, making Yuri ponder if his next foe might be more receptive to a chat before a fight. They offer to lead him to a large nearby river, an offer Yuri gratefully accepts, seeing a solution to his boar problem. Yuri questions their altruism, only for the birds to reveal it's a thank you for the wheat he'd unknowingly provided them earlier. Yuri breathes a sigh of relief, glad he didn't have to hunt his new feathered friends, and waves them off. The river's proximity is a small comfort as Yuri confronts the colossal task of moving the boar, a feat beyond his current strength. A light bulb moment. Yuri recalls his storage skill, a game-like ability perfect for hauling heavy loads. With a simple touch and a mental command, the enormous boar vanishes into his dimensional storage, much to Yuri's amazement. He discovers his storage is a timeless pocket dimension, meaning his prize won't spoil and there's still plenty of room. Overjoyed by this ridiculously overpowered skill, Yuri pumps his fists, feeling like he's hit the cheat code jackpot. Eager to process his kill, Yuri decides to head for the river, wisely remembering to activate his concealment skill for safety. At the riverbank, Yuri gets down to the messy business of preparing the boar, using water magic to aid in the cleaning process. Exhausted from the magical exertion, Yuri rests by the river, noticing some odd stakes in the water and deciding to check his status. His status reveals he's used half his magic power, a sobering reminder that even convenient skills have their limits. Yuri's perception of this world shatters. Even weak foes are apparently formidable, and his magic is far from ordinary. He successfully butchers a portion of the boar by the river, blissfully unaware of just how overpowered his skills truly are. With a flick of his wrist, Yuri conjures a makeshift stone oven using earth magic, then ignites a fire with a simple spell. The boar meat sizzles invitingly over the flames, Yuri recalling basic camping etiquette about protecting the ground. His eyes widen, drool forming, as the perfectly roasted meat reminds him of hearty meals he's missed for years. With his stomach growling in anticipation, Yuri decides this magnificent roast will be his first celebratory meal in this new world. He brings the massive, juicy skewer closer, ready to savor the fruits of his perilous victory. The first bite sends him into ecstasy, the incredible flavor echoing through the forest and even surprising the local wildlife. Tears of pure joy stream down Yuri's face. This simple, delicious meal makes him feel truly, vibrantly alive for the first time. With his immediate hunger sated, Yuri turns his attention to securing a safe place to sleep before darkness descends. Yuri, ever the planner, decides to fortify his sleeping spot against nocturnal nasties, sketching out his defensive strategy. His grand design for a secure base takes shape on the ground, with strengthened base defenses now topping his to-do list. Contemplating an old shack, Yuri mulls over the various methods to construct a proper wall, a crucial step for survival. He weighs his options. Scavenging wood is too slow and weak, while stone stacking is a monumental, time-guzzling task. Recalling the boar incident, Yuri figures earth magic is his best bet for quick walls, if only he can make them stronger. Thus begins his intense earth magic training montage, a chibi Yuri wrestling with the very elements. His practice yields results, showcasing a clear progression from lumpy messes to a rather respectable earthen pot. Yuri beams with pride, holding his latest creation, a smooth, well-formed pot, a testament to his rapidly improving control. Tapping the pot, he's astounded by its stone-like hardness, far exceeding ordinary earthenware without any firing. He marvels at his handiwork, dubbing the surprisingly sturdy creation magic stoneware, a product of his refined skill. Yuri, channeling his inner artisan, meticulously prepares the earth, understanding that good groundwork is key to strong magic. With a flourish of earth magic, he erects a colossal, perfectly smooth wall, a testament to his refined control. He admires his handiwork, a formidable barrier, 5 meters wide and 3 meters high, thick enough to deter most threats. His plan solidifies. 3 more of these magnificent walls will transform the dilapidated shack into a proper stronghold. Victory! The shack is now encased within 4 mighty earthen walls, his very own impenetrable fortress. Yuri feels a slight sense of unease at the almost prison-like austerity of his new, ultra-secure home. With night falling and his magic depleted, he decides to call it a day, planning to simply store a wall for an exit. A sudden, crucial oversight dawns on him. He hasn't secured any drinking water. He berates himself for neglecting such a basic necessity amidst his grand construction projects, but then recalls a potential solution. Yuri approaches an old well he'd found earlier, a much more convenient water source than the distant river. Yuri peers into the dark well, dropping a small stone to gauge its depth and the presence of water. He notes the well's broken pulley system, but a telltale splash confirms his hopes. Water. Reluctant to expend more magic, Yuri resigns himself to using water magic, picturing the liquid rising. Success. A shimmering orb of water floats before him, and he's thrilled it actually worked. His appraisal skill gives the water a clean bill of health, though Yuri still wisely considers boiling it. Utterly spent from his first day's labors, Yuri decides an early night is in order. With no proper bedding, He fashions a makeshift mattress from a pile of collected leaves. Surveying his new fortress, Yuri mentally lists future upgrades, a satisfied smirk playing on his lips. A genuine smile spreads across his face. He's brimming with plans and actually excited for the dawn. Morning greets Yuri with a stiff back and aching muscles. Turns out leaves make for a terrible mattress against the cold, hard ground. Yuri, with newfound determination, decides today's project is turning that boar hide into a proper futon for a comfortable life. He consults his skill list, wondering if an amateur like him can even process leather, then spots his countryside living guide unique skill. A grin spreads across his face. This countryside living guide skill, true to its name, seems to be exactly the handy tool he needs. He navigates the skill's interface, searching for boar hide tanning method, hoping for some quick answers. The guide instructs him to first strip the hide, then thoroughly wash off all the dirt, a task he begins with gusto. Next, he meticulously scrapes away the fat with his knife, the sheer size of the hide making him pant with effort. The instructions then reveal the tanning solution requires alum and salt, and a soaking period of 1 to 2 weeks, much to Yuri's dismay. Defeated by the lengthy tanning process, Yuri shelves the bedding idea for now, deciding to clean and repair the house instead. He assesses the shack's layout, a single-story 3-section LDK with dirt floors and no usable tools in sight. Peering inside, Yuri identifies the kitchen and dining areas, designating the back room as his future bedroom and living space. Yuri, with his magic replenished, decides it's time for some serious DIY, pondering how the locals manage their sleeping arrangements. He expertly uses earth magic to transform the shack's interior, creating a raised floor that's a definite upgrade from plain dirt. Yuri cleverly integrates a traditional sunken hearth into his new earthen floor, adding a touch of familiar comfort to his rustic abode. His earth magic proves invaluable again, effortlessly crafting plates and cutlery, a feat Yuri performs with blissful ignorance of its true power. With no broom in sight, Yuri unleashes a gust of wind magic, giving the old shack a much-needed, if somewhat aggressive, deep clean. He steps back to admire his handiwork, the renovated shack now looking surprisingly spiffy and much more livable. As daylight fades, Yuri calls it a day, already planning his next project, crafting candles from the leftover boar fat. A sudden realization hits him. He's forgotten about essential amenities like a proper toilet and a much-desired bath. Morning arrives and Yuri wakes up on the unforgiving floor, the chirping birds a stark contrast to his aching back. Tears stream down Yuri's face as he accidentally discovers his storage skill while idly browsing his status board. Yuri despairs, realizing his food, water, and even the boar hide were safely tucked away in his storage all along. A flashback reveals the goddess's letter detailed the world's name, Fiora, and advised hiding unique skills, also including info on living magic. He stares at his living magic list, aghast that purification could have saved him from many discomforts, like using leaves for, well, you know. Yuri ruefully remembers his old habit of skipping game tutorials, only to be blindsided by obvious features later, just like now. As he cooks the boar meat, Yuri, ever the pragmatist but slightly miffed, acknowledges he's been making things unnecessarily difficult. Determined to improve his bland meals, Yuri decides to scavenge the ruined village for any leftover salt or seasonings. Sifting through the debris of a collapsed house, Yuri uncovers a surprisingly well-preserved, albeit old, map. He studies the found map, noting its simplicity but appreciating that any guide is better than wandering aimlessly. A peculiar marking on the map catches Yuri's eye, sparking his curiosity about potential resources or lurking dangers. With the map as his guide, Yuri ventures into the forest, convinced there must be a good reason a village was established nearby. Yuri strides into the woods, musing that while treasure would be nice, he's not obsessed with getting rich. Holding the map, he resolves that whatever lies at the marked spot, he simply has to see it for himself. His advance is halted by a dense wall of overgrown grass and trees, with no discernible path forward. He hesitates, considering the untamed vegetation and the possibility of unknown dangers, briefly contemplating retreat. A light bulb moment! Yuri chides himself for forgetting his magic, initially thinking of fire before wisely considering the wildfire risk. With a confident grin, he prepares to unleash his wind magic, dubbing his technique Wind Cutter. A powerful slash of wind effortlessly carves a clear path through the dense undergrowth. Amidst the cleared foliage, Yuri uses appraisal and discovers an edible plant called yappa, a type of wild yam. He delightedly gathers the yappa, envisioning how these wild vegetables will liven up his monotonous diet. Yuri drools at the thought of a rich, starchy meal from the yams, a prospect far more enticing to him than any treasure. The yappa's deep, brittle roots make harvesting a decade-long, delicate ordeal, easily broken by clumsy hands. But why bother with manual labor when Yuri has earth magic, perfect for a quick and easy harvest? His magic unearths not just a yam, but a comically human-shaped root, leaving Yuri utterly bewildered. He examines the peculiar root, noting its odd form but concluding it's just a very suggestive vegetable, not a monster. Deciding to appraise the strange find later, Yuri suddenly tenses, his danger sense flaring up. A chilling premonition washes over him as he scans the now ominous-looking forest. Pure instinct screams at Yuri to move, a desperate urge to flee his current position. He hurls himself aside just as an unseen force tears through the spot where he stood. From the ground, Yuri stares in disbelief at the two deep, parallel gouges carved into the earth. He peers into the trees, wondering if a monster or a local launched the invisible attack, his heart pounding. A colossal praying mantis, easily twice Yuri's height, materializes before him, its alien eyes fixed on the boy. Yuri, understandably freaked out by the giant, invisible mantis, tries a desperate, friendly greeting, hoping for a chat. The mantis, clearly not in a conversational mood, responds with a swift, deadly slash of its scythe-like arm. He narrowly evades the attack, realizing this monstrous insect isn't open to diplomacy. Yuri stares at the deep gash in the earth, knowing a direct hit means instant game over, as the mantis vanishes once more. His danger sense flares again, a timely warning that the invisible predator is about to strike. Yuri, now understanding his danger sense, focuses intently, trying to pinpoint the camouflaged threat. He realizes that while the mantis is invisible, his skill can still detect its presence, unlike his own concealment. With a plan forming, Yuri summons several globules of water, a clever tactic taking shape. Surrounded by his watery projectiles, Yuri prepares to launch his counter-offensive against the unseen foe. Yuri unleashes a torrent, recalling water magic's ability to conjure liquid from thin air, a divine tip. The gushing water envelops the mantis, its invisible form now clearly outlined, much to Yuri's feigned apology. He muses that the mantis's scythes would make excellent tools, preferring to capture it rather than waste good materials. To Yuri's utter revulsion, grotesque worm-like parasites suddenly burst from the mantis's body, identified as otherworldly Hariganamushi. The parasites swiftly deal with their host, leaving Yuri deeply unsettled and the mantis's remains unusable. Feeling a bit green, Yuri presses on, map in hand, noticing the landscape has become disorientingly similar. At last, a dark cave mouth appears, matching the peculiar marking on his salvaged map. Anticipating the gloom, he ingeniously crafts a torch using earth magic for the stick and leftover boar hide for fuel. Illuminating the passage, Yuri steps inside, observing signs of human digging but no immediate riches. His rudimentary sandals prove ill-suited for the rough cave floor as he ventures deeper, pondering better footwear. Yuri considers his lack of funds, realizing selling materials is the standard way to earn cash or barter in this world. His eyes widen with hope. Actual treasure would be a game-changer for his survival. Deeper in the cave, a colossal, sparkling crystal formation looms before him, bathed in ethereal light. Yuri, torch in hand, gazes up in wonder, recognizing this magnificent, glowing discovery as true treasure. He joyfully imagines a perfectly seasoned steak, realizing the crystal is actually a massive deposit of rock salt, making his slow life seem on track. Yet a quick mental replay of the giant mantis and ferocious boar reminds him his slow life has been anything but peaceful. Suddenly it dawns on him. He's overlooked the quintessential slow life activity, farming. With newfound resolve and a hoe in hand, he declares that the first crucial step to agriculture is, naturally, soil preparation. He acknowledges that while the former villagers likely tilled this land, it's now compacted and tough, as his hoe barely scratches the surface. Why struggle when you have magic? Yuri effortlessly commands earth magic to clear the stubborn weeds, making quick work of the initial tilling. With the weeds gone, Yuri explains that next, the soil needs tilling to aerate it, promising a host of benefits for future crops. He glances at the hoe, a tool largely unused thanks to his magic, but resolves to put in at least a little manual effort. Soon, neat, perfectly formed furrows stretch across the land, a testament to his surprisingly efficient preparation. Yuri then considers fertilizer, realizing animal manure is ideal but currently unobtainable, just as a sudden sound catches his attention. Two cheerful white birds descend from the sky, seemingly greeting him as they approach his newly tilled field. As the birds land, a brilliant, if slightly desperate, idea concerning their natural contributions sparks in Yuri's mind. He awkwardly attempts to solicit fertilizer from the feathered visitors, who look utterly bewildered, before he remembers his manners and introduces himself. Yuri tries to explain the human concept of individual names to the birds, who clearly don't share this particular custom. Undeterred, he happily tells them to call him Yuri, and the birds chirp back, seemingly acknowledging his request. He reflects on the simple joy of having someone to talk to, even if they're just birds, as he's yet to encounter another human in this world. Yuri watches the birds depart, realizing their contribution wasn't quite the fertilizer he'd hoped for, but he's still amused. He considers making compost from weeds and rice bran, but then remembers a quicker option he has on hand. Yuri reveals a pot of nutrient-rich ash from burned plants, explaining its benefits to the curious, feathered onlookers. He spreads the ash across his furrows, attributing this handy agricultural knowledge to a wise old saying. With preparations nearly done, Yuri surveys his options: wheat, potato seedlings, and various tubers gathered from the forest. He unearths the sad-faced, human-shaped yappa root once more, deciding to plant it rather than attempt to eat the unsettling vegetable. Yuri gazes at the sky, musing on the current season, which feels like early summer, and recalling the god's promise of a familiar climate. Deciding to start with wheat, he begins sowing seeds, only for his avian companions to take a keen interest. The two birds happily peck at the freshly sown seeds, mistaking Yuri's planting efforts for another generous feeding. Yuri quickly intervenes, explaining to the bewildered birds that these particular seeds are for growing future food, not for immediate consumption. Despite the avian interference, Yuri diligently plants a variety of crops, shooing away his feathered friends from the precious seeds. With a flourish, Yuri employs wood magic, instantly coaxing tender green shoots from the freshly tilled earth. Next, he conjures a gentle shower with water magic, giving his burgeoning crops a much-needed drink. For his first foray into agriculture, Yuri masterfully uses light magic for sunshine and dark magic for shade, ensuring perfect growing conditions. 2 months fly by, marked only by the silent passage of time over the rugged mountain landscape. Yuri's homestead has flourished, now boasting neat rows of thriving crops and a sturdier, more comfortable dwelling. He reclines contentedly, finally basking in the tranquil, slow life he'd always dreamed of. Thanks to his reinforced defensive walls, Yuri can now relax without fear of monstrous intruders or feeling confined. He even named his avian visitors Sakura and Omochi, though their occasional flock gatherings can be a tad boisterous. Yuri watches as Sakura, Omochi, and their flock embark on their long migration south, seeking warmer climes before winter sets in. Yuri gazes at the horizon, a surprising pang of loneliness hitting him despite his solitary dream life. Suddenly, his feathered friends, Sakura and Omochi, reappear in a flurry, chirping urgently as they approach. Yuri is startled as the birds seem to be frantically telling him about a small human in trouble. Without hesitation, the birds lead the way, urging Yuri to follow them quickly into the dense forest. Yuri, now armed with his blade, follows them, wondering how a child could have wandered so deep into the wilderness. A grim thought crosses his mind as he considers the possibility that the child might have been abandoned. The birds guide him deeper, pointing towards a specific spot within the overgrown woods. Yuri calls out, hoping to find the child, but the clearing initially appears empty. He wonders if they've moved, but Sakura and Omochi insist, guiding his gaze to a hidden spot. Peering closer, Yuri discovers a small, unconscious girl with delicate features, possibly a fairy, lying amongst the tall grass. Yuri marvels at the tiny, glowing girl, realizing this was the small human and feeling an urgent need to help. Finding no injuries, he recalls the god-gifted mana potion, hoping it might revive her. He carefully tries to administer the potion, but her delicate features make it a tricky endeavor. Yuri sweats, flustered by the challenge of helping such a small, unresponsive individual. Disaster strikes as he fumbles, accidentally drenching the tiny girl in the entire potion. She abruptly sits up, coughing, having absorbed the spilled liquid, much to Yuri's immense relief. The now awake girl unleashes her fury upon a stunned Yuri, clearly unamused by her potion bath. She then regally informs him he should be grateful for the opportunity to assist her, leaving Yuri to ponder if she's a spirit. The little being proudly declares herself a spirit of wine, distinct from fairies and more akin to pure energy. Yuri bluntly asks if she's like a ghost, earning an immediate, offended huff from the spirit. Yuri, ever the polite host, inquires about the spirit's name, only to be met with a haughty declaration that she doesn't possess one. She elaborates that spirits identify each other by their unique mana, finding human naming conventions rather unnecessary. The spirit magnanimously permits Yuri to call her whatever he wishes, to which she might deign to respond, much to his bemusement. A cunning glint appears in her eyes as she questions if Yuri dares to look down on her, a mighty spirit, merely because she was momentarily indisposed. With an air of unshakable confidence, the spirit announces her decision to grace Yuri with her presence for the foreseeable future. The tiny, self-assured spirit then zips through the air, making a beeline for Yuri's humble abode. Arriving at the homestead, she grandly surveys the area while Yuri trails behind, already accepting his new, rather bossy houseguest. Her regal composure momentarily shatters as she beholds the rather rustic state of his village, deeming it more akin to ruins. Yuri cheerfully clarifies that he's the sole human inhabitant, with only his feathered friends for company, which suits him just fine. The spirit eyes Yuri with a newfound curiosity, sensing an untold story of hardship beneath his placid exterior as the birds observe them both. The spirit, aghast at the ruins, questions if Yuri, the sole childlike resident, even possesses any wine. Her face contorts in utter horror as the grim, wineless reality of Yuri's homestead sinks in. She wails, a ghostly aura appearing, that without wine, her very power source, she'll starve, much to Yuri's bewilderment. Yuri recalls the mana potion actually worked, despite its unappetizing appearance, as the spirit groans from its after-effects. She clarifies that while other things sustain her, man-made beverages are the true font of her spirit power. The spirit despairs, dramatically lamenting the utter lack of anything delicious in this desolate place. With a furious glare, she threatens to depart this culinary wasteland, prompting Yuri to make a swift decision. Yuri, ever the pragmatist, resolves to care for her temporarily, now facing the challenge of her specific dietary needs and his dwindling potion supply. With newfound determination, Yuri announces his plan to craft potions, while the spirit sulks nearby surrounded by gathered herbs. He even conjures bottles with earth magic, figuring potions are a good start since winemaking is beyond him, and he can't drink it anyway. Yuri muses that potion crafting usually requires specialized skills, wondering if the god had foreseen this need. He then remembers his Rural Living Guide tablet, a godsend for looking up how to make potions. The tablet reveals an extensive list of craftable potions, much to Yuri's surprise, all thanks to his master craftsman skill. He notes that beyond basic recovery, he can craft enhancement and special effect potions, some with materials already on hand. With a determined glint, Yuri gets to work, and soon, rows of potion bottles materialize. Surveying his considerable output, Yuri thinks he might have overdone it, but at least the spirit will be satisfied for a while. A pleasant surprise, his mass potion production has unlocked a brand new alchemy skill. Yuri, pleased with this unexpected development, realizes his potential for growth extends far beyond his initial gifts. The spirit, now appearing as a young woman, approaches, astounded by the sheer number of potions and questioning if Yuri truly made them. Yuri cheerfully offers her a sample, having even fashioned a tiny cup for her as she eyes the concoction with suspicion. The spirit sips the potion, her expression revealing it's not delicious, but Yuri notes it's a basic recipe. She admits it's better than previous potions, then announces she'll take a walk, leaving a pleased Yuri behind. Yuri muses that while the spirit is fussy, at least she seems okay with the potion, even if she didn't drink much. Floating above the homestead, the spirit wonders if Yuri's potions are different, sensing something unique about him since they met. She decides that even without wine, staying with this unusual human might not be so bad after all. 2 weeks pass since the wine spirit's arrival, and summer settles in earnest over Yuri's homestead. The blazing sun highlights the dangers of farming under intense heat, a universal truth even in this new world. Yuri, however, casually uses dark magic for shade, water magic for hydration, and wind magic to stay cool while tending his crops. The spirit watches, astounded by Yuri's nonchalant use of immense magic for simple farming, a sight she's never witnessed. Uninterested in the specifics of his power, the spirit declares she's off for a nap, leaving Yuri to his tasks. Yuri muses that life with the spirit is more like having a neighbor, as she mostly keeps to herself, which he appreciates. He then considers his clothing situation, realizing he needs summer wear and should prepare for winter, as his single outfit won't cut it. Deciding to forage for materials, Yuri ventures into the forest, observing the diverse plant life and hoping to find something useful. He quickly spots a promising patch of mao, a plant whose fibers are ideal for making sturdy clothes. His luck continues as he discovers cotton plants, another prime candidate for his textile needs, and plans to cultivate them. Suddenly, Yuri finds himself surrounded by a dense swarm of what appear to be mosquitoes, a familiar nuisance even here. A lone mosquito buzzes ominously close, and Yuri, previously focused on larger threats, realizes he'd overlooked this common peril. The narrative underscores the mosquito's status as one of Earth's deadliest creatures, a silent, disease-spreading menace. Yuri's mind races, connecting this to other Earth-based pests like mites and fleas, a chilling reminder of unseen dangers. Terror striking him, Yuri abandons his clothing quest, now desperately needing to find or create insect repellent. Yuri frantically searches for natural insect repellents, recalling earth plants like mint and dokudami, hoping for local equivalents. Success. He discovers pirate flowers, a local chrysanthemum perfect for repelling pests, his tablet confirming its use in traditional methods. A sudden realization hits Yuri. Picked flowers won't last, and winter will arrive before he can establish a sustainable supply. Desperate for an immediate fix, Yuri consults his tablet again. Then a brilliant, if smoky, idea strikes him. Billowing smoke soon rises from Yuri's homestead, a telltale sign of his new anti-mosquito strategy in action. Inside, Yuri burns the pirate, explaining that the insecticidal smoke, a traditional repellent, should keep the pests at bay. Suddenly, the tiny spirit zips out of the house, clearly distressed by the sudden influx of smoke. The spirit, now in her human form, furiously confronts a bewildered Yuri, accusing him of trying to smoke her out like a common pest. She huffily floats out the window, remarking it's a pity his attempt to drive her away failed, as Yuri sheepishly apologizes. The spirit clarifies that while ordinary bugs don't bother her, some nasty creatures drain mana, surprised Yuri hadn't considered insect repellent sooner. Yuri, ever the learner, cheerfully asks the spirit to share her knowledge whenever she feels inclined. The spirit appears momentarily taken aback by his earnest request, a hint of surprise on her face. Later, under the moonlight, the spirit grumbles about his audacity, but secretly considers teaching him, perhaps if wine were involved, feeling a slight shift in their dynamic.